As part of this year's opening session, it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker today. Mr. Michael Huerta has been the acting administrator of the FAA since December 11th and was recently nominated by the President to serve as the permanent administrator. Mr. Huerta is responsible for the safety and efficiency of the largest aerospace system in the world and oversees a $15.9 billion budget, over 47,000 employees, and is focused on ensuring the agency and its employees are the best prepared and trained professionals to meet the growing demands and requirements of the industry. He also oversees the FAA multi-billion-dollar next-gen air traffic control modernization program as the United States shifts from ground-based radar to state-of-the-art satellite technology. Mr. Huerta is an experienced transportation official who has held key positions across the country. His reputation for managing complex transportation challenges led him to the international stage when he was tapped as the managing director of the 2002 Olympic Winter Games. And Mr. Huerta, if you have any tickets to the opening ceremony for London, let me know. My kids would love to go. Anyway, before joining the FAA, Mr. Huerta was the president of the Transportation Solutions Group for Affiliated Computer Services. He was previously commissioner of New York City Department of Ports, International Trade and Commerce, executive director of the Port of San Francisco, and held senior positions in the U.S. Transportation Department in Washington, D.C., serving under Secretary Federico Pena and Secretary Rodney Slater. Mr. Huerta holds a bachelor's degree in political science from the University of California, Riverside, and a master's in international relations from the Woodward Wilson School of Public and International Affairs at Princeton University. We are honored to have him here with us today to open our 37th annual convention. Please join me in welcoming the administrator of the FAA and our keynote speaker, Mr. Michael Huerta.
Rick, thank you very much. And yes, tickets are always available for the opening ceremony. They'll cost you, though. Well, thank you, Rick, for that kind introduction. It's really great to be here at the RAA annual meeting here in the Twin Cities. You know, I just toured the exhibit hall and was very impressed with everything that you see out here. The next generation of aircraft, the next generation of avionics, engine technology, all kinds of great things. And in spending just a few quick minutes in the hall, what you really see is what we are as an industry is going through a significant period of technological transformation and technological evolution. And I think that's indicative of the evolution of the industry as a whole. As you all know, we're moving into the next generation air transportation system, moving from the ground-based systems that have served us and served us very, very well in the first century of aviation. But as we look to the future, the satellite-based navigation systems that we will use to move air traffic tomorrow. And so it's a very challenging time for us in aviation. And we're moving toward an aviation system that is going to be even safer, even more efficient, and much more environmentally sustainable. One that's going to have more direct routes, fewer delays, and more predictability. And it's not just here in the United States. The entire world is changing the way that we handle air traffic. Now, as we make this transformation with new technology, new aircraft, new procedures, and a re-energized workforce, we need to use new techniques to make the system even safer. And the way we do that is by making the system even smarter. This industry has a fabulous safety record, but we all know that we can't rest on our laurels. We're moving from a system of accident investigation and forensic study to a proactive analysis of data. We want to understand what might happen in the system so that we can make changes that can address safety risks that might be out there. That's a much smarter way of doing business. And we plan to address this in a variety of ways. We want operators to establish safety management systems. This is how we find out where problems might exist and how we catch errors and ultimately how we improve safety. At the FAA, we're already using SMS in our air traffic organization, and we're extending it to other areas throughout the agency. Now, the aviation industry has always been a leader in using data to analyze risk. And I have to take a moment to thank all of you at RAA for your excellent response to our call to action in 2009. At that time, we asked you to institute voluntary reporting programs like ASAP, the Aviation Safety Action Program, and you did. Now, all of your Part 121 U.S. airline members have instituted ASAP. That is 100% participation, which is incredibly impressive as an industry. This program is so important to collecting safety information that otherwise would probably not come to light. We rely on individuals to report errors and to report safety-related information, and they do so with reasonable protection from company discipline or from FAA enforcement. Now, I urge everyone to institute FOQA, or Flight Operations Quality Assurance, as well. I know that I'm probably preaching to the converted with RAA members. However, we all know that there is still room to improve, and for more regional airlines to institute FOQA. It's an important and an extremely useful program. Now, the great thing about these programs and databases is that they provide us all the ability to work collaboratively. And to work collaboratively to analyze data across different operators and different types of employees in the aviation industry. Our goal is simple. It's to understand the behavior and correct it in a way that will enhance the safety culture that we all treasure. At the FAA, we've created similar safety databases based on non-punitive reporting for air traffic controllers, as well as for those who repair equipment in our national airspace systems. These kinds of databases help us all continuously improve training so that aviation professionals are equipped to handle a wide variety of different situations. Now, this is one of the ways that we are being more collaborative and, we think, much smarter about how we advance the cause of safety. Another avenue is through improving pilot training and also pilot qualifications, and also through recognizing and combating pilot fatigue. In the last 3 years, more than 2 billion people have flown on U.S. commercial aircraft, and they've done that without a single fatal accident. In large part, that's because of the efforts across the aviation industry, and thanks to thousands of dedicated pilots, maintenance personnel, airport operators, air traffic controllers, and yes, FAA inspectors and technical specialists. Now, our goal is to maintain this safety record, but also to improve upon it. Now is not the time to become complacent. Instead, we all have to remain extremely vigilant. America expects precision and perfection from the aviation industry, and Americans expect it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year. One area we've addressed head-on is the issue of pilot fatigue. Late last year, we issued the landmark rule on pilot fatigue that ensures that pilots have a long opportunity for rest before they enter the cockpit. And it also ensures that work schedules are based on the latest fatigue science. Now, combating fatigue in the cockpit is the obligation of both the airlines and their pilots, and they need to do it by working together. Every pilot has a personal responsibility to arrive to work fit for duty. The new rule gives pilots enough time to get the rest that they really need. Now, many RAA members are very familiar with the rules. We are also working on for pilot training and pilot qualification, and you've served on these rulemaking committees. So I want to thank you for your service, and I want to thank you for your participation as we work to enhance safety in every way that we can. Now, the FAA has focused a lot of energy on enhancing both the certification and qualification of our airline crew members. As you know, and we've talked about it, we're raising the baseline qualification for first officers who fly for U.S. passenger and U.S. cargo airlines. The proposed rule, which we introduced in February, would require first officers to hold an airline transport pilot certificate, which is the highest pilot certificate available. Now, not only do we want to require the certificate, but we also propose to increase the training to achieve it. For example, we believe that it's necessary to have both academic and flight training in critical operating skills. This includes learning more about high-altitude aerodynamics, handling stalls and upsets, and knowing how to perform multi-pilot operations. Now, I understand that RAA members are already adding the training needed for an ATP certificate to their training program, and that's good news. The ATP requirement goes into effect in August of 2013, regardless of any rulemaking action by the FAA. So that means it'll go into effect in a little over a year. Now, we're also proposing to increase the experience to become a captain of a U.S. passenger or U.S. cargo airline. You would need at least 1,000 hours in multi-crew air carrier operations before upgrading to captain. Now, this would not include flights such as crop dusting or banner towing, but actual air carrier experience. Now, later in the conference, John Duncan of the FAA will discuss this topic of how to recruit more young people into the aviation industry. And we've had a lot of conversation about, do these changes actually in any way affect the shortage of professionals in the aviation industry in the future? And that's a big question, and it's something that we need to work together to resolve. But what we need to find is a solution that enables us to ensure the highest levels of safety in the aviation industry. Now, once crew members are hired, we also want to ensure that the baseline training they receive is updated and applicable to all the types of environments that they're going to face in their jobs. We're working on a final rule for pilot and crew training that will improve safety. It would require pilots to demonstrate their skills in real scenarios, situations that they might actually encounter in the cockpits in flights. Now, of course, many of you are familiar with AQP, the Advanced Qualification Program. This is a voluntary FAA crew member training program which incorporates many of the safety enhancements in the proposed rule. And I know that many of you have benefited from this kind of training, and we want everyone to be able to do so. The FAA has consistently issued strong training guidance to carriers, but this proposed rule does represent the most significant overhaul of crew training in the last 20 years. This is a major effort to strengthen the performance of pilots, flight attendants, dispatchers through better training. The difference is, though, rather than having a pilot execute a recovery in a highly choreographed event, the new training will be conducted as if it was actually existing on a flight. Today's operating environment is incredibly complex, and we have to ensure that training and knowledge are applied in real-life situations. Not only do we want the flight crews to show us that they have mastered the individual skills, we want them to demonstrate that they can apply these skills in real-world actual situations. And those real-world situations are always changing in a dynamic industry like ours. We're constantly learning more about flight and improving the way that we fly. Now, it's going to take all of us working together as an aviation industry to continue to enhance safety in an industry that is already very, very safe. But we're making good progress, and I want to thank you all for your efforts to encourage an open safety culture where everyone can talk about safety concerns in a constructive way. And thank you for your professionalism in doing the job the right way every day. So thank you very much. Have a great conference. You have a wonderful program ahead of you in the next couple of days, and I'm sure there will be a lot of productive discussions that take place. And so thank you very much. Be happy to take your questions. Want to take? Yeah. 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 Happy to take questions. They're all heading for the floor. Yeah. Go ahead. Sure. A couple of things. First of all, let's remember that the law provides that the threshold would be 1,500 hours. And so what we have proposed in our rulemaking are ways to, more flexible ways that we might be able to provide alternatives that would help meet a similar level of qualification. But it's an open rulemaking right now, and we have received a lot of comments. We need to evaluate all of those comments and come back with a solution and a proposal. I want to go back to the general theme that I talked about, though, and that is we do recognize that advancing safety is very much a shared responsibility. And so what that means is we've put something out for comment. We've received an awful lot in the way of input in that. We'll look at all of that and take that into consideration as we move forward. What else? And we've got somebody with a mic. Down front, here.
Thanks, Mike, for coming. I'm Jeff Johnson from St. Cloud State University, and I know in the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking there's some comments on ABI-accredited aviation programs, post-secondary programs. ABI is Aviation Accreditation Board International. Do you see some good potential there, Mike, as far as that being a partial solution to particularly the regional airlines, and with consideration of flight crews and the new congressional requirement that will come to pass next year?
I think there's always benefit from any sort of program that provides an educational foundation and a training foundation for to encourage people to come into the aviation industry, to get them excited about what careers in aviation look like. And what we all need to do as an industry is tackle this problem together and figure out what we can do to ensure that we have the prepared workforce we need in the future. But that's certainly one objective. Anything else on this side? Okay. Roger.
Michael, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And if I could call up